So, Senator, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us here this morning. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Dustin.
So, obviously, in Iowa, as of yesterday, we know that animal diseases are top of mind. We got HPAI back again in the state, but we're also working to beef up security around our ports of entry, and that's what we're talking about today with the Beagle Brigade. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're trying to do there.
Well, I love it. So there is a program through USDA that funds our Beagle Brigade. They are detector dogs that will work with Customs and Border Patrol agents and through APHIS. And what they do, they will detect meat that's maybe tainted. They'll sniff out vegetables and fruits that are entering into the country, perhaps illegally, and of course, detect any pests that might be traveling along through unwary travelers' suitcases. So these are all very good things. But what we have found is that the Beagle Brigade is actually funded by user fees. And we know that those fees can go up and down. So I do have a bill that would provide appropriated dollars from Congress to the Beagle Brigade to make sure that we keep their funding steady and that those detector dogs are on the job consistently.
So I'm assuming that with that kind of training and that kind of handling and expertise, it's not cheap to just come up with a team. It's not just a matter of hiring somebody off the street and doing the job.
No, it is not. And so my Democratic sponsor on this bill is Raphael Warnock of Georgia. And that's because that is where the National Detector Dog Training Center is located in Noonan, Georgia. And there is extensive training that goes into this. Anytime you have a service animal or a law enforcement canine, you have to have a lot of training. And that's what these detector dogs go through, is extensive training to be able to find and literally root out those types of pests or diseases.
So why is this something, when we're talking about border security on something like this, why is this something that hasn't been funded by Congress before?
Well, this is one of those gaps in existing programs. We have the program, but what we want to ensure is that there is consistent funding, especially as we see African swine fever approaching our shores, as we see these cases of HPAI. So it's just a very smart move for us to make sure that we are providing the appropriate level of funding to protect our agricultural resources.
And I'm sure with the outbreak of bird flu being detected across the country and now in Iowa, I'm sure your minds are on, what may happen. And we kind of learned that lesson the hard way in 2015 on what may need to be done to help some of these farmers out should this explode to that level again.
Yes, and that was my first year in the United States Senate, and we had HPAI sweeping through Iowa, Minnesota, many other states. It impacted our growers and our farmers significantly. It was just a disastrous time. We had great help through, of course, IDALS in the state of Iowa, our Ag and Land Services. We had great help through APHIS at USDA. But we have to take those lessons learned and, like I said, shore up some of the gaps that exist in current programs.
Now, onto another topic. I know you had the chance to talk with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. It's been the question we've been asking for a while, is the promotion by the Biden administration of EVs over biofuels. What kind of answers did you finally get from him?
Well, they weren't the answers that I was hoping for. Let's put it like that. There is a big push by the Biden administration to move towards electric vehicles. And so the secretary, Pete Buttigieg from DOT, he was fairly straightforward. He also stated he does believe that EVs are no emissions, but I cited the fact that those no emissions maybe is a little bit misleading, because there certainly are emissions during the mining of various resources that go into electric vehicles, certainly during the manufacture of those vehicles. So while It's half true that once that car is put together, it doesn't have emissions. Certainly during the building of that car, there are emissions, and that needs to be included when they are talking about a car's carbon footprint. So we were trying to push biofuels. The secretary did state that perhaps sustainable air fuel and other types of fuel like that would be more appropriate for our biofuels.
So, I mean, what is the plan? Do they lay out any more groundwork? I mean, because the fact that EVs are, for every single person, are a long way off. Yes, we're starting to see more and more of them on the streets, but they're still a long ways off. And to do the jobs, like we're talking about maybe seeing some tractors here soon, but we're talking long haul, like trucks and things like that. That's a ways off. Why not promote biofuels while you're still developing that technology and trying to grow it?
Yes, and you have made my case for me, Dustin. And that is exactly what we are trying to push with the administration, is the fact that we do have studies that say liquid fuels, combustion engines will be around and heavily utilized through the year 2050. 50. So these types of vehicles are going to be around for a very long time. So we need to invest in biofuels right now, because we know that that will immediately reduce the carbon footprint of our traffic across the United States. EVs, that's great. If you want to choose to drive an electric vehicle, that's wonderful. We should leave that up to consumer choice. But these studies have found that a lot of folks still really do appreciate the vehicles that they have right now. We'll continue to see those in the future.
And you also mentioned the carbon aspect of the mining, but you're also looking at the fact that it's going to take fossil fuels, at least for the foreseeable future, to generate that electricity.
Yes.
And if you're talking more electric vehicles, you're talking possibly more electric, need. And so, was that addressed on how they can address that? Because, you're looking at, if we have an increased need, how do they plan to get around that?
Well, that's a question we have been asking the administration, because knowing and understanding that most homes aren't even outfitted to charge these electric vehicles. We don't have the necessary infrastructure to charge electric vehicles. So this is a long, long ways off, and yet the administration has not addressed those concerns.
Well, Senator Ernst, I thank you so much for your time this morning and giving us updates on what's going on, and we look forward to hearing more progress in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin, so much.
That's Senator Ernst here on Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.